Hey everybody, welcome to NFL Broadcaster. This is the NFL Broadcaster Show. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Crazy Talk NFL. He's on, I think, my first or second episode of my podcast, but he's joining us again. Welcome in.
Thanks. I think it was the second, but no. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. So today, guys, we're going to be doing NFC South predictions just because we all know how exciting the NFC South is going to be with Brady, Gronk, etc. Anyways, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Crazy Talk, and we're going to see what he thinks.
Well, thanks. To start it off, I put a post out on every, the season prediction I had for every team, my personal take on them, and then I posted the division standings of what they would have ranked out to be from my predictions. But I have the Bucks number one in that division at 14-2. Falcons going second at 11-5. The Saints I have going third at 10-6.
Wow.
The Panthers I have at 6-10. The Panthers and the Saints as kind of pretty much everyone outside of the Bucks. I'm the most flexible because I can see where the Falcons would maybe go a third year in a row at 7-9. That the Saints do better or worse. But yeah, that's kind of where my standings for them, for my predictions on the teams, sits at.
Okay, I agreed with everything except for the Saints. Now, I see how they could be not as strong as previous 2 or 3 seasons, but I see them potentially 1 or 2.
I mean, so I didn't post this to my page, but I do have a second round. So I went through after I was done with everything. I put it on a second round. And I redid it, and I did have the Saints at 2 and the Falcons at 3. I had the Saints at 2 sitting at 12-4, and that other time I had the Falcons at 7-9.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see the Saints are just, to get the Bucks out of the way. I think we can agree the Bucks are, outside of the Chiefs, probably the most complete team in the league. Last year they had a weak secondary, but that's because they were rookie and second years. They have a stud safety they picked up in the draft, and their guys are all more developed. That defense last year was, even with the weak secondary, was just flat out insane. And now they have Brady, they have all complete weapons, and there's talks of Devontae Freeman, taking a deal to be their running back. So just to get the Bucks a little bit out of the way. But the Saints were just, their offense I never deny. But the problem is that their offense goes and it hits to, they have Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. That's it. That's all they have.
Andrew Brees.
Well, Andrew Brees, but that's the other thing that comes into it is that they don't have a quality wideout too, and they haven't for a little while now. I remember back when they had Marquise Colston and they had a not so old Ted Ginn Jr. They had one with Willie Snead. Yeah. But when Willie Snead was there, they had one. But they haven't really had a second guy, which is one reason why that Michael Thomas gets the majority of balls thrown to him that there are. Is because there's not really anyone else to truly throw to. Not to take away from Michael Thomas, in my mind, he's the absolute best wide receiver in the league today.
Agreed.
With Julio putting number 2 behind him. But that's just, they don't. So that's where I always knock their offense, is that you're not going to shut down Michael Thomas. You can't. You can double, triple cover him, and he's caught the ball in triple coverage. And no one knows exactly what. You just magically see the ball and Michael Thomas's hands.
That's true.
But if
Yeah,
you
he's good.
but if you shut down their other parts of their offense, if you shut down Kamara, that you're forcing Breeze to throw the ball, then he has to throw to Michael Thomas, who maybe he can't get open on a play, and then that's where an interception pops up. So it's just that, and their defense, you need more than Cameron Jordan.
Yeah, that's it is like their defense is like they're good. They have the talent on paper, but Kiko Alonso, he's way overrated in my opinion. They have Marshawn Lattimore, but he hasn't been the same since his rookie season. I think they have Chris Banjo still, which he's great and underrated, and I loved him on the Packers. But like they just don't have those. I guess. Yeah, I trust their offense more than I trust their defense. And I do agree that like I think the Bucs have a more well-rounded team as in offense and defense. I can agree with that for sure. So, you think we can both agree that we'll put the Bucs first?
Oh, I definitely put the Bucs. I definitely would put the Bucs at number one. I think we both agree on that.
Okay, yeah. So I'll put them in first place here. Let me figure out how to add this in here. I hope I spelled that right. Buccaneers. I
just put Bucs. Just put Bucs. That's what I put.
All right. So
I do think we both agree that the Panthers are going to be bottom of the division.
Yes, absolutely. I think they're going to come in at number 5. Or I'm sorry, number 4. I don't know why I said 5 again. Yeah, we can place them at number 4. And I think the Falcons, I see them at 3 because their defense fell apart. They had that one good season, or one or two seasons, I think, that they were like stud defense, but they just never showed up again, if you know what I mean.
Well, that's because they had they had Dante Hightower before he went to New England. And that comes with age. Vic Beasley was a stud on that defense, but he got old. I don't. When I saw that I think it's the Titans that picked him up, but I was like, he's not who he was. But I see the Falcons as the Falcons. They have a young. They've rejuvenated their defense with youth, and that secondary is very underrated, in my mind. But the reason I have them at 2 is the reason I put the Saints at 3 is mainly looking at if the Falcons defense could get, I think we could agree on that. If the Falcons defense the last 2 seasons, since the Super Bowl, well, not since the Super Bowl, but the last 2 seasons since 7 and 9, they, if they would have just, I would have play when it mattered. That team would be a 10-6 team at minimum.
They have the offense for it. I just don't trust their defense at all. Not anymore. Not since their 2016.
That's the thing is they rejuvenated it so much. They a lot of their old guys they're pushing out now. They're getting young guys in. So that's what I have more faith in the Falcons defense this season than I do in the Saints defense. Mainly because the Saints, the one thing you're going to see the Saints drop off a little bit because, and one of them, Cameron Jordan, I'm sorry, if he ever sees this, give it up. The fouls happened. You didn't make it through the playoffs. Stop talking about it. That's where I'm at because they're still torn. They're still caught up in this whole thing of, well, we should have won. We should have won. He was talking about it 2 years. He was talking about it 3 years ago. He was talking about what happened 3 years ago this year, and that whole defense is caught up on it, and it affects how they play. It really does. They would be a way better defense if they just. The Minneapolis Miracle happened. Give it up. Stephon Diggs is at Buffalo now.
It did
You
happen,
don't have
man.
to worry about Stephon Diggs. You know, I just, and you know, they haven't done anything to rejuvenate their defense at all. For the Saints, while the Falcons have, but then the Falcons offense, I feel, plays better than the Saints offense, because we touched about it a little bit. You have Julio and Matt Ryan, but behind Julio, if Julio would retire today, if he would take the Megatron route and retire today, Calvin Ridley would be a quality standout wideout one.
Oh yeah, and plus, don't they have like Hardman or something, or they used to have? Okay, I'm sorry, they had Gabriel.
Well, they have Russell Gage.
They have who?
They have Russell Gage, who is really underrated in my mind, but he could step in and be a quality wide out too. You know, they had Gabriel. You are right. They had Gabriel, who then went to he's out in Chicago now.
Yeah, he was with Chicago. He wasted his career there. And yeah, they do have a great offense. Falcons have a great offense. I'm not familiar. Who did they add that, like, you think they rejuvenated their defense? I haven't really, I guess I didn't pay attention. Who'd they draft, or who have they added?
Well, they had their, had it here. I don't think it's so much rejuvenate. See, the other thing, when I mean rejuvenated, I don't mean in one season. You know, I mean over the last 2 years, they've changed. They've transitioned from what they had. You know, very much like the Steelers. You know, the Steelers have rejuvenated their offense, which I think shows this season. But that, you know, that that's an extreme case of taking a while, of transitioning to what they have now. AJ Tyrell at cornerback. He was the one Clemson secondary. I believe, if I remember right, he was Clemson. Yeah, he was the Clemson secondary who they got. He's going to be a stud. He was at Clemson. Being a Boston College fan, I pay so much attention to the ACC. Clemson's just, you know, their defense every year. The ACC's defenses are so much underrated half the time. I mean, half of Boston College studs come from their defense. They have, I think it's Kazi. I can never say the names right. But I think he breaks out even more. He had 3 interceptions last year. I mean, he's only 26, and he's the leader in that secondary. Isaiah Oliver too. You know, Isaiah Oliver's another one who drafted last year. You know, who's gonna stand out even better. That's what I mean. Is last year they were running with rookie, second, and third years, and that just improves. You know, that just juvenates into something that's gonna be good.
I see what you mean.
AJ Tyrell was the big one.
So
that's why Falcons a little bit more.
Okay, I can roll with that. I respect that. I don't have a problem. I don't know them well enough to disagree, and I don't know the Saints well enough to try to overturn that claim either. So you put in the Falcons at 2, Saints at 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like I did say, that's the biggest like give take sort of thing in the league. I think this year that's the most. You know, I think anyone in the league could guarantee that the Bucks are going to be 1, and the Panthers going to. But the big question is, you know, like we were saying, you know, I had the Falcons at 2, you had them at 3, but I had the Saints at. You know, it's the biggest flip flop that you don't really know until you got to wait a hike for that.
Okay, I respect. And we agreed that Carolina, they're just bad. I like Teddy Bridgewater there, but they're not going to be well enough to.
Not this season, especially going through head coach turnover. I do
Yeah.
love Matt Rule, though. Matt Rule has been able to transition from people are very college coaches can't transition to the NFL, which 90% of the time is true. However, Matt Rule took a Temple team to a bowl game. Temple had not been to a bowl game in a very long time. He took a Temple team and beat Penn State, which had not happened since I think like the 1940s. Like it just didn't happen. And then he went from the American Conference, so what Temple's in, to coaching Baylor, who's a Power 5 conference team, was going through scandal and propelled this team to being an enforcer in the Big 12.
Yeah.
So he's very adaptive, and I think he can adapt just fine to the NFL setting.
Okay. What do you think of their defense? Losing Luke Kuechly, and I think they parted ways with a cornerback too, right?
Yeah, they did. I don't really think too much on it. In my mind, that Matt Rule has a set contract. I think they have what they need at offense. So
Mm-hmm.
I think the defense is just going to be a build. They don't really, they have Curtis Samuel, DJ wideout. They have two quality wideouts. Obviously CMC and Bridgewater, I think, is a perfect quarterback to build that system around.
Yeah. If he can stay healthy.
That defense. Yeah, exactly. And if he can't, I'm actually very optimistic because PJ Walker was the Temple quarterback when Matt Rule coached at Temple, which is one reason why they went out and got PJ Walker. So I think even if Bridgewater would go down, I think he can stay healthy. It's been so long since that knee injury, and he hasn't shown any signs of, going down with it nagging or missing a practice because his knee's bothering him.
Yeah, he did great
like many of these guys
Saints.
with chronic injuries do.
I like Bridgewater there in that system. I think they're just going to have to rely a lot on Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, their defense, I really...
Oh, are you there?
Which they will. Very a West Coast style. What?
Sorry, I think we're cutting out. Hang on.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. No, because we lost video, so the cam is frozen right now.
Oh, well. Hopefully I'm not making a funky face.
It ain't too bad. It ain't too bad. We're good. We can still hear you. All right.
But anyway, you can still hear me fine, right?
Oh, the video came back.
Hey!
Awesome. There's just a little delay now, but we're good.
But that defense, I think, just takes a rebuild. I mean, I think Bradbury's still there in their secondary. I don't know too many of their pieces because they've gotten rid of a lot of them in the last, since the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they have.
I think actually, to be honest, Kuechly retiring was the best thing for Matt Rule. I know that sounds crazy, but
he's going to be a great scout.
Oh, he absolutely is. But the other thing is now you don't have, because it usually is what actually hinders a new head coach who's trying to build this team around his system is, while Kuechly would have been a great mentor. I mean, I think he still will. He'll mentor a lot of those guys.
Yeah. And he still adapts to the game because the guy's only 29 years old. So he knows.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, the other thing I'm looking at is Matt Rule goes, fast forward 4 years down the road. Matt Rule builds this entire team, but he hasn't touched the linebacking core because he has Luke Kuechly. He's not out here trying to figure it. But, while all these guys are developing, Luke Kuechly's downgrading. And then you have this stud defense. It's obviously a theory. Luke Kuechly could have probably played for the next 6 years and been great. But, that often with age comes lower skill ability, that you have this developed defense who's playing good, playing great, and then you have this veteran who you could have gone and drafted this linebacker who fit the system just the same, but you stayed with it because it was the star linebacker there. It was the franchise linebacker.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it was just it was actually better because now it allows him to do a complete overhaul.
Okay, I see what you mean. Boy, you are Mr. Crazy Talk, because you think of some things that I wouldn't think about.
That very few people do. They just want to say this was good. Is it really though?
That is interesting. I do, and I think the Panthers had a really strong draft, didn't they, on defense?
They did, and that partially comes from Matt Rule. He is actually also with Temple and Baylor, he was a great recruiter because he does have the ability to look and go. And with a lot of those guys, I think a lot of the guys, because one thing that comes with it is you have to not persuade them, be like, are you okay being drafted by us? But I think a lot of it comes from Matt Rule. He has a very Bill Belichick-like ability to look at guys who aren't the top, guy there is, but he also recognizes the top guys that have the talent there are. Like a lot of the guys he was bringing in at Temple and Baylor were 3-4-star athletes, and they're coming out and playing at a 5-star level. But this year was also the most skilled draft year I think we'll ever see. I don't think you'll ever see, a draft where you can take a cornerback in the 6th round that has the potential to be just as good as a guy in the 1st.
Yeah, there were so many sleepers in this draft, so many good picks that just kept falling and falling. And that's because it was so deep at wide receiver. There was tons of position players that were amazing.
Well, in this last draft, there were 60 wide receivers.
That's nuts.
To be drafted. That is the deepest I think I've ever seen it, at least in my lifetime. But the thing is from number 1 to 60, outside of Lamb, Judy, and Ruggs, you had, from number 3 to number 60, Justin Jefferson down to I don't even know who was the number 60 guy that was on that list. They all had the same potential to be studs, and that's what I mean. I don't think we're ever gonna see that. You could take, I value DJ Metcalf as the best draft prospect, and he went in the 3rd round, second
Who was
or
that?
3rd round. DJ Metcalf, he was the Ohio State running back.
No, that's Dobbins.
But then, oh my bad.
Metcalf's the Seattle wide receiver.
Yeah, not Metcalf. Dobbins. Like I said, I can't remember half the name.
No, you're good.
Yeah, Metcalf was a stud. I think he was more a sleeper stud. Everyone expected something from him, but I don't think anyone expected what the Seahawks have in him.
Yeah, he's going to be great in the 2020 season. Metcalf is going to be stellar, especially with him and Lockett. With Baldwin gone and Baldwin was gone last season too, but I think Metcalf was kind of hurt, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had a slow, as I call it, a slow start. A lot of people are whenever I say that, people are like, what do you mean a slow start? He was one of the top rookie wideouts. If he hadn't had gotten hurt, if he hadn't had those little nagging injuries, he probably would have, instead of being one of the best, Metcalf probably would have been the best rookie wideout. That's why I say slow start. Slow start being it takes a little bit of time, and I think
Yeah.
this year's the second year he breaks out.
Yeah. I think he will too. He's huge, isn't he? He's like
I
his
think the
body
same
is
for
just
like Dwayne
huge.
Haskins. It showed for Josh Allen. Oh yeah, I mean that comes condition. I mean it's the same with like Saquon Barkley or CMC and McCaffrey. CMC is they're all just they're ripped. I they're just they're a lot of guy without a gut.
Yeah. Christian McCaffrey, he's really muscular. And he's like not the biggest guy, but he's just like he's just jacked. And so is DK
Oh yeah,
Metcalf.
DJ Metcalf, Saquon, CMC, and that comes with a lot of conditioning in today's game. Just the conditioning of what it is, because I remember Saquon back in Penn State. I mean, I think he still holds the bench record. It was the bench or deadlift record. He holds one of the two, and it was held by a lineman.
Really?
He's out here pumping weights that lineman. Yeah, I remember that at Penn State. That was the big thing. No one in college could take down Saquon Barkley because how as a cornerback are you supposed to take down a man that is out here, and the same with Zeke. Zeke was the same way.
Yeah, he was.
But they're out here pumping iron like they're a 350-pound lineman.
That's just the genetics of today's players, dude. They're all just like getting more and more enhanced and like just athletic. It's insane that the people that are coming out of college nowadays is just getting more and more challenging, or like not challenging but competitive every year.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, someone told that to me and they were like, because they told me that they see the draft only getting, more and more deep. I don't think so. The reason I say that we see the most skilled, I think you're gonna have a lot of depth from here on out, from starting this year, maybe not next year, but I think this year's draft was what we can see the future of drafts. You don't need to have, it's gonna take a very Bill Belichick-esque mind, that's where it's gonna move towards. And I say that because Bill Belichick was drafting guys like that in the 5th, 6th round, and everyone, in an era, he was drafting guys 5th, 6th round that were going to be a starter in a year or two, while
Always.
Guys were like, well, I have to draft the top guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's Bill Belichick for you. That guy knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to cut it short, but that's all the time I'm going to have today.
No, you're fine. I completely understand it.
But yeah, that's. I appreciate you coming on. I'm glad we got to discuss what we think on the NFC, and I now understand why you believe that the Saints are going to be 3rd, Falcons 2nd. I see your point there. It's going to be a very competitive league or division, so I'm excited to watch them for sure. But
I am too.
So everybody, I post Mondays and Fridays. Check out all the social media, and I'll leave the link to Mr. Crazy Talk's Instagram in the bio. I appreciate you being here today, man.
No, I appreciate having me on. It's always an honor.
Absolutely, you're welcome. Have a great night, man.
Yep, same to you.
Appreciate it. Later.
Later.